The very idea of raising taxes on small business and job creators is the sort of thing only an extreme liberal could come up with.
Rod Diamond has voluntarily decided to forego any deferred consideration and deferred bonuses.
The broad swath of American schools are not challenging their students enough.
Evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Tuesday evening, July 10th. A lot to get to this hour, but up first here, believe it or not, the likability factor. In the middle of an economic recession, Obama and Romney are neck and neck, and I'm not just being metaphorical. Literally, polls have them exactly tied. But the better question might be why? Could it be because of the likability factor, or is it something else entirely? We'll get into that. And then manipulating the market. Barclays in a lot of hot water, and its CEO out on the street for fudging the numbers. And there's even an hilarious email proof of it. We'll explain why you ought to care. And then later, an easy A. Well, a new report's out that shows that kids think school is just too easy. We're going to hear from the author of that report about what's really going on in the classroom. And then Cuomo 2016, well, we haven't even finished the race for 2012 yet, but some, and when I say some, be interesting who that some is, already floating the rise on a potential candidacy in 4.5 years. We're going to have the dad behind this story. We're going to have all that plus a lot more coming up in this edition of RFL, but let's begin on the campaign trail. Now, as we reset the political calendar, now that we're past the 4th, we find the election 119 days away. We're under 4 months, everybody, and the president's still leading in poll averages, but that lead, it has perceptibly shrunk in recent days, though his lead when it looks to the Electoral College estimates, that remains pretty steady. But the point is, as we've been saying all along, the closer we get here to Election Day, this thing keeps getting tighter and tighter. And if you look at the poll averages for the White House, you're going to see that the top line, it's making some waves today on these poll numbers. New ABC News, Washington Post polls got the race, as I said, a flat-footed tie at 47% for both Romney and the president. It also goes on to say, though, as to why. The answer could lie in some of the other questions right beneath the top line poll. And I want to bring in Andrew for that because it really runs the gamut on the big issues obviously facing the electorate, who's better to handle them, but also that always eternal question, who do you like more?
Yeah, and we're going to get to all of those numbers, Rich, but since the beginning of this race, we've been saying the top 3 issues for voters are the economy, and the economy. So let's start there to see why the race is tied. Who's better on the economy? Voters say Mitt Romney is by 5 points, but that's a pretty wide-angle question. When asked specifically which candidate had a better understanding of the current economic problems, it's Obama who polls better and does so by 10 points. When asked who has the better plan for the economy, Obama remains ahead, this time by 5 points. So why do voters trust the president more on the economy when they think Romney would be better at it? It may have something to do with their view of Romney's time at Bain Capital. More people think Mitt used his company to cut jobs than he did to create jobs. Now, you'd think a poll that had Obama and Romney tied would be all bad news for the president, but it's not. Voters are now evenly split in their support of the president's health care reform law. You can see how big a swing that is for voters just since April. That trend reflected in the even split among voters on which candidate would handle health care better as an issue. More good news for the president. He's still doing better than his grades or that his on-the-job grades would indicate. The president tied in this poll despite still being slightly underwater when it comes to job approval. Also, the president's voters are more committed to him than Romney's supporters are to Mitt. Obama has more definite voters, and Romney has more voters who say they could change their minds. Which brings me to what I think might be the most critical number in this poll, and the subject we discussed on this program yesterday, candidate likability. Voters just like the president more, and a lot more, by a 36-point difference and better than 2-to-1. If Mitt Romney were better liked by more people, Rich, I think at least, he'd probably be running away with this election. I think that's the biggest drag on Romney's numbers right now.
Okay, and it's funny because as we reported earlier in the week,
I told you so.
Yes, exactly. We had the actual speaker here, John Boehner, saying to a woman who posed a question, well, what can I do to like this guy, to really love this guy? He goes, you don't have to. Just
and he
basically,
said he didn't think people would.
And he said, I don't think you're going to love this guy between now and November. I think for a lot of you folks, it's just you're going to not like the president enough here that you'll vote for anybody else.
Be careful what you mean by likability. A lot of that is not just personality. I don't think Romney comes across as a mean, cruel, cold person. I think it is clearly a reflection of people's class sense of him.
Well, they don't think there's relatability
He is
with him, right.
He is of the 1%, by the 1%, and for the 1%, and that is, I think, translates into what is called likability.
There's also a comfort level with him too. I don't think he would win the "would like to have a beer with" poll. I think people feel awkward, or that he's awkward in a lot of situations.
I don't think people care about that crap.
I think
with
a lot
everything
of people
that's
do
facing this country and this world right now.
do.
For anybody who doesn't know, I want to bring in our panel. You met Andrew, of course, here. Richard Brodsky, former Samuelin, senior fellow at Demos, professor at NYU, and so much more. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. And Dominic, I'm going to start with you. Question one here. If you were Romney's campaign advisor, we just went into the whole likability factor. What would you do between now and November? Would you even try to make this guy more relatable, more likable for the electorate? Because I've seen these poll numbers here, and basically it's 9% of the American public haven't already made up their mind who they're voting for. For those 9%, would you bother trying to make your candidate more either warm and fuzzy or somebody that, as Andrew said, you'd have a beer with?
I certainly would try. He still could win the election without doing any of those things. I honestly, I would almost copy some of the things that Obama are doing. I would say, Mitt, no jacket today, almost like Al Gore. Remember the Al Gore? It didn't work too well. But let me just finish. Mitt, roll up your sleeves. We're going to put you in Ohio in a working class community, and you're going to go to the local bar. We're going to stage the whole thing, and you're going to have a beer. And I would do this, at a bowling alley.
They're headed in exactly the direction other than that. How much of a genius do you have to be to let your wife's horse win the dressage contest for the Olympic team? Or to talk about your 3 houses in Maine? Look, he's not going to be able to convince people that he is one of them. He is going to be able to convince people he could do a better job. I don't know if he will, but this conversation about him being one of the masses ain't going to work.
I think the American public has been through and seen enough right now that if he did something along the lines of, listen, I'm Mitt Romney, I'm in the 1%, I earned every penny that I ever made, and I hate paying taxes, but you know what? I'm what everybody in America ought to aspire to. You work hard here, you make a lot of money. Now, what I am not is, I'm not how my opponent defines me as somebody who doesn't care about the rest of you. I do, and I care enough that I'm going to put you to work. If you just say that, I think the American public would be a lot more, and say, you know what? Screw it. I don't hate the rich guy. That's why people in this country don't believe in estate taxes, even though almost none of them will ever pay it.
Will you release your tax returns? Will you tell us about your offshore?
He can't mention taxes.
I think you should get out of it, get in front of it now.
He can't mention taxes.
He can't get around it.
He's got a real problem with
I would take it as though he was Tony Robbins and be like, yeah, I made a lot of money, and I can show you how to also. All you have to do is elect me president.
The Tony Robbins candidate for president.
Yeah.
That's it. These are not winning strategies,
Andrew,
guys.
let me ask you the next one, which is you're Obama's campaign right now. And as you said, issue number 1, 2, and 3, the economy, you just went into the poll numbers that the public believes that Mitt Romney understands, or at least he's better equipped, given his background, to handle the economic challenges still facing America if elected. If you're Obama right now, what is your messaging to say that, is it to say, look at what this guy used to be? Or is it what you will do in the next 4 years?
I think what Mitt Romney used to be factors into it, but that's not the way I would focus. I would focus on here's what I want to do, and what I want to do is provide you help and you help and you help and give everybody a leg up. What this other guy wants to do, what the other party wants to do, they want to help businesses, they want to help companies and hope that it trickles down to you. I want to help you.
All right. Now, Richard, finally, the one thing that seems to be getting some traction for the Obama camp is that they've gone after Bain. They're talking about the offshore accounts. They're talking about the elevator in the house in California for the car. They're painting the class portrait pretty good. But they're also saying this guy's got a lot of money socked away somewhere, and he's only paying 14% for what he even acknowledges here. At a certain point, does that come off as small, that they say there's bigger issues here? I'm more worried about how you get 8.2% down to 7%.
Small works.
To a point, though, right?
Go back to the 9% who are undecided. Have Andrew dig into that poll today and see what the likability factor is and the Bain factor is for the undecideds. I think it'll show higher than it does for voters at large. He's got real vulnerabilities, Mr. Romney. Obama's going after them. It's not enough to end the election, but until the Romney campaign comes across with a credible, relaxed response, it's going to be the conversation of the day, and it doesn't help him.
All right.